Welcome to the Scott Holman Podcast. Back tonight, talking about a couple of our favorite Cougar sports, the recent end of the men's basketball season, and plenty of men's basketball season news to talk about. Some really fresh and, to this point, very exciting, positive news as it relates to your Houston Cougar men's basketball team. We have a spring game coming up on Saturday, talking about the unofficial second favorite sport of the state of Texas, a state that we are all either from or currently reside. Guys, some football, men's basketball tonight to talk about. Dustin, I've seen you more recently in this space than Bobby, but I will still ask, how you doing, friend?
I'm doing well. Excited to be chatting with y'all as per usual, and officially into the college basketball off season, I guess. And normally we'd love to be a little bit more fired up about the bat and ball sports and still have that going on. But I think the best thing you can say right now for everybody, including the people involved in those sports, is that we are in the football and basketball off season for Houston right now. So that's, don't love the off season essentially already being upon us here in early April, but was really kind of, ruminating on moments ago before we got started about, when was the last time I was this excited about football and men's basketball at the same time during an off season. So good place to be in terms of looking forward to the coming seasons for both of those sports.
That's a good question. I can't genuinely think, because obviously we've had some exciting football seasons, and it's not that during the, probably, as I say, I guess the 2021 season, you were coming off the Final Four, and the 21 football season was fun, even if we all knew that team didn't beat a whole lot of teams of note, but feels more sustainable this time. It feels more, I guess, less on the precipice of going back to something that we weren't so excited about, which is football the last couple of years. Bobby, how you doing, friend?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's the eclipse yesterday happened. We were Dallas is the largest city that got full totality. It was really cool. One of those experiences that maybe I didn't think was going to be as cool. I was like, man, and this is going to be really cool. But then it happened, and you're just sitting there and you're just like, this is absolutely amazing. And like, it could only happen on Earth really because we're 400 times further from the moon and the sun, and like it just happens to link up perfectly in terms of distances and sizes. It was just a mind-blowing event yesterday. We had some friends in town for it, so still kind of coming down off the high of that and seeing something that I hadn't seen before, and I won't be able to see really unless I want to travel long ways for another 24 years. So
I was gonna say, and you still have your sight, so we know you didn't stare directly at it yesterday. And blind. Hey, there we go.
Hey, there we go.
Those of you who are watching not only are seeing Bobby's fantastic 3D glasses, but I'll just also give a shout out to our good friend, graphic designer of the show, Bill, who put together this snazzy little backdrop. If you were watching us, you see it right now. You got the I was gonna say almost got a Hollywood Squares vibe. Yeah, that's right. You got the
Brady Bunch logo, where we just like look at each other. Like,
yeah, I think that's what Dustin was going for. So shout out to our friend Bill on that one. If you are watching and enjoying this new gussied up picture that you are looking at of the three of us talking about Houston Cougar sports, gotta do our usual housekeeping. Mention our friends right below me, actually, if you're watching, Charlie Hustle, charliehustle.com, on the World Wide Web, makers of incredibly comfortable vintage wearables, including a great Houston Cougar collection. Bobby, don't throw me off during my
sorry.
Go there, use our promo code POD15. If I have said a promo code that you've heard in the show previously, forget it. Do the mind wipe. It's PAWD15. That'll save you 15% off your order from Charlie Hustle. Basically guaranteed that you're going to get incredibly comfortable Cougar wearables, shirts, hoodies, crew necks. A great collection for all seasons. You're going to look good watching your Cougs wearing Charlie Hustle. That's charliehustle.com. Promo code PAWD15. Bobby, I'm going to throw it to you first, because Dustin and I did get a little bit of a luxury last week of being able to discuss the immediate aftermath of the season. We talked about the last game of the season, a heartbreaker of finish in the Sweet 16 against the Duke Blue Devils. But we tried to keep it, I think, focused on that specific game and not talk about the big picture, which is what we're going to do tonight. Talk about, I think, the recent Cougar news. I think that's kind of our end to talk about it, is we've got some pretty fantastic news here in the last 48-ish hours about what this team is going to look like. Have we not?
Yeah, we absolutely have. Just some, I know y'all kept it a little bit last week to
Yeah,
just
if you have, you know what, you're
yeah,
here. Give your Duke thoughts. You were there present at the American Airlines Center. It's still called the American Airlines Center, right?
that is correct. It is still called the American Airlines Center. And I gotta say, you guys had told me that it was going to be like, even in some losses that you've been to, it's just a really cool experience. And and I think Sam's exact words were, if you can figure out the money and you can get it done, absolutely do it. You're not gonna forget the experience. Some of the best Cougar experiences you said you had came at NCAA tournaments, and so decided to go. We had Dustin drove up. He brought his wonderful fiance. Another friend drove up, and we just had a heck of a time. We got to go out beforehand, have some food, met one of our wonderful Patreons, and just had a really good time. It was a really good time despite the loss. You know, I can talk X's and O's and I can talk about the stats and everything. But it was just really fun being there. And being surrounded by a bunch of U of H fans. You know, the seats that we got, that our buddy Mike got him and I, because he works in tickets, so he was able to finagle some tickets, but we were kind of separated. But the seats we got were really good. They were behind the bench, lower bowl, that kind of deal. And so we were on the U of H side hanging out with a bunch of Cougars. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun just kind of being there. Obviously, you wish the game would go a different way, but that was definitely a really good time that I had there. Obviously, you see Shed go down, you start to get a little concerned, and then it just kind of gets worse from there. But that's my favorite part, and I texted you guys this, was we were also in the NC State area. That was kind of where there were a lot of NC State fans, and our friend Mike is a guy who has never met a stranger.
Gregarious.
I think you could both. I noticed when I said that, you both cracked a smile. The guy's never met a stranger, and he was just high-fiving anybody he saw in red, because we were right on the aisle, and he was high-fiving anybody in red that he saw, and telling them go Cougs the whole time. And I'm like, dude, half these people are NC State fans. Like, you're high-fiving the wrong people. And then after NC State wins, and you know, some of their fans are starting to leave, I kind of stood up and just kind of made an idiot of myself, as you guys are probably not surprised, and just was telling all the NC State fans, like, don't leave. We are you. Cheer for us in this game. We will use your support. One, we're both like the fourth most popular school in our state. But you kind of get mad that everyone cheers for Wake Forest, like people cheer for Tech here over us. It's like, why? You know, we both probably are the little brothers to the other schools. Like, you want to cheer for us. Plus, you hate Duke. Nobody wants to see Duke win. So that got a bunch of laughs from NC State fans. So it was just a really good time. Obviously, like I said, you'd want to see the Cougs win, but if you have a chance to go to some NCAA tournament games, to reiterate what you guys told me, go. It's a really good time.
Yeah, I tell people that, like, I was somehow able to make like a really amazing experience out of watching Jordan Poole end our 2018 season. It's like, if I could do
I don't
that,
remember
like,
what you're talking about. I don't recall.
It doesn't look like anything to me.
But like, yeah, let's get, I say, the current news. Like, I would say the most notable thing that's happened in the last couple of days is that we got the not unexpected but great news that that Wani Roberts and LJ Cryer would officially be utilizing extra seasons they have in Wani's case because of a redshirt his first year, and also playing during the COVID season in LJ Cryer's case because he started his career during that 2020-21 COVID season. So I think if you had asked us all Monday morning, which I believe was before both guys had officially announced they're coming back, I think if you had asked all three of us, we would have expected all three would be returning, but that doesn't make it any less exciting that we officially have those two guys back, right? Like that's still, I think, qualifies as very good news. When you say, Dustin?
Oh, it's massive news. I mean, it's two guys that are, all conference caliber at any conference in the country. Two guys who played just a huge role in a lot of Houston wins this year, and two guys that, I mean, if you don't replace them, or if they don't stick around, you're best case scenario trying to find a similarly talented player in the portal, which is gonna be hard because those are two incredibly talented players. And even in that scenario, you're bringing in guys that don't have the the history and the cohesion and everything of having played, together with the other players that are coming back on Houston's roster. So getting those two guys back, we haven't seen anything official, but I think it's pretty common knowledge at this point that Jamal Shed is not coming back, but it sure looks like the other four guys in the starting lineup are. And I mean, we've seen Kelvin Sampson consistently win when he has one or two guys starters back, and he's kind of piecing together a lineup from guys that were on the bench and newcomers coming in. Man, the idea that you might just be, and obviously not to minimize what it's going to be to try to replace Jamal Shed at the point or anything like that.
No biggie, first team All-American.
It's just Jamal Shed. But for Kelvin Sampson to get essentially, you go, the plan sure seems to be everyone assumes Houston's going to find a starting point guard in the transfer portal, plug him in. Your other four starters are back. Your bench of it seems like the staff, who has always had a pretty good pulse on their roster, seems to be expecting most to all of them to come back. So if that's a bench of JoJo Tugler, Terrence Arsenault, Ramon Walker, and some combination of the guys that redshirted, said Lott, and then Mercy Miller and Chase McCarty coming in, I think that's a starting five, though, to win a lot of games in most any conference, and it would be behind in this scenario, coming off the bench behind one of the most veteran, cohesive, experienced, talented starting lineups in the country. So it's an awfully tantalizing proposition. Just not only the depth that Houston can have, but certainly the star power when you get guys like LJ Cryer and Juwan Roberts back for another year when they were already pretty damn good college players this time around.
And I was just going to say, Roberts was clearly playing this past season at not 100% health, had an ongoing knee injury that seemed to date back, I think, to non-conference play. I think he had surgery on it this week. The hand injury he suffered during conference play as well. He was an already incredibly important player for this team while not playing anything close to full health. And if next season we get him at even 85, 90% health and another offseason in this program, I think at minimum, we're talking about first or second team all Big 12 guy when it's all said and done this coming season. And I think his presence is going to help another returning starter, his front court running mate, Javier Francis, another player who I thought showed real progress over this prior season. He wasn't perfect, but I mean, let's remember the season before this past one, he was a bench big man averaging just over 10 minutes per game for a team in the AAC. And I think before this past season, that was maybe that, and whether Sharp or Arsenault or Dunn were going to start. I think those were your two big question marks about the starting five. I mean, we had a not small number of people every time we post a scholarship grid, be like, oh, Kelvin really has to go out there and get a big man. It's like, and I get it at the time. It's like, okay, like Javier was not proven coming into this season, but also you kind of just, you give this staff the benefit of the doubt. Like you give them this carte blanche, like, yeah, they know what they're doing. Like, okay, like maybe I don't think Javier is ready to be a Big 12 starter, but obviously Kelvin Sampson proved right on this one. Javier, while not your biggest offensive contributor, was very much ready for it. And I think having Roberts with him, I think that's a really exciting future to envision. And oh yeah, no biggie, your best pure shooter, a guy with as good of a track record of any veteran Big 12 guy shooting from deep, will also be coming back. Bobby, I would say, not to diminish Dustin and I's massive Roberts fanhood, but I would say you're the biggest Wani Roberts fan of the three of us. How you feeling about that?
Man, you got my text as soon as I saw it, and it just said Wani in all caps. There may have been 15 to 20 exclamation points, and then LFG with about 15 after that. It is beyond exciting for me. I was super pumped. I guess I probably should have been paying a little bit more attention, but I didn't expect Wani to be back. And then you get the news that he is, and I was just absolutely ecstatic. And I'd argue that he's probably the heart of this team going into, or he was this year, right? One of those leaders, him and Jamal Shed. If you lose one, you keep one. I'm actually all right with that, right? You're going to have a guy who knows the culture better than, he's almost the epitome of this culture, of the culture of this program, more than almost any player that we've had under Sampson, in terms of just, he knows, he does the gritty work. He may not be a big time NBA guy, but he's just going to come in. He's going to work harder than you. His game is developed over the last couple of years. You remember when he first was getting some serious playing time, it was just like, if Wani can get us 4 and not foul out, but he's going to get us boards. He's going to set good screens, things like that. You were super excited. Now Wani's a double machine, and you're just going, all right, yeah, bring that back. And you bring everything back. And to your point, are you going to be able to replace Jamal Shed? Probably not, right? No matter who you get in the portal, they're probably not Jamal Shed. They don't have that experience in this program, things like that. But you're going to keep a lot of your core. You guys went through it. You got Wani and Francis in the front court, and then your guard group is Cryer, Sharp, Arsenault, maybe, right? That's a good starting five, guys. That's a really good starting five. And then you go off that, and you got Tugler off the bench, McFarland. He's a 6'10" kid, red shirt. Might he play a lot of minutes this year? Maybe not, but with our injuries that we've shown that we kind of have some unluckiness, I don't mind having a guy at the end of the bench who's 6'10", who you can't redshirt, right? Because he's already redshirted. The depth, the thing that killed us this year was a lack of depth. And I think, and really it was kind of a lack of bodies, not even depth, right? You just kind of needed bodies at time. The A&M game, a perfect example. Just some bodies out there. And I haven't even mentioned Mercy Miller or anything like that, and you are super excited for this lineup next year.
Yeah, you mentioned the depth, and it's such that as of now, if Houston is taking that transfer point guard, as far as we know, it publicly does not appear like they have a scholarship to give him, because Houston was at the 13 scholarship limit this year. As of now, the only two guys that we know are not coming back is Jamal Shed and then Damian Dunn, who entered the transfer portal. And Houston does have those two freshmen coming in, Mercy Miller and Chase McCarty, both top 100 national recruits, both 4-star recruits. So I mean, and I think Malik Wilson, I mean, Joseph Duarte in a recent, Q&A article even kind of explicitly said he was expecting Malik Wilson to not be back. But then we got, John Rothstein tweeting just moments before we started the podcast here that actually, in fact, Malik Wilson is coming back to Houston next year as well. So, I don't know if that means that we're going to see someone else on the roster transfer out.
Does Mercy Miller maybe not take a Scully?
Well, I don't know. My thought was maybe more that for maybe like for Malik Wilson or somebody that they would find a way through NIL money or what have you to take a guy in his last year. Because I think you do that with a guy in his last year, probably, as opposed to someone on his first year. And I believe they did kind of something similar with Wes Van Beck.
Yeah, he had some academic scholarships, right?
He had been a walk-on, earned the athletic scholarship and then some. But then his last year, in order to get everyone else on scholarship, they got him with academic scholarships, whatever. So
it's like, Wes, we need Nurazana. We need Nurazana here.
So I don't know. I don't know what the plan is there, if someone else is going to transfer out but I mean, because out of the 14, again, it's just like, we had the depth where we could barely, Kelvin Sampson talking about how so much of this year they couldn't even practice. They didn't have enough healthy bodies to go 5-on-5 in practice. Again, if you don't lose anybody, if Malik Wilson comes back on an NIL/academic scholarship or something, that's 14 guys, and I couldn't point to one of them and go like, no, I don't think this guy can play at least a little bit of minutes this year. Like, who would you point to and go, no, that this guy's not ready to play even like a little bit? It's a vanishingly small list. It's a deep team. And like I said, so not only to get the 4 or 5 starters back, it looks like at this point, but knock on wood, assuming we don't have a bunch of, transfers out of the bench all of a sudden, if you get most or all those guys back, that's, like I said, an awfully deep team. And that's very, very exciting because, Houston's had some injuries the last few years. The way that Houston plays, maybe they're just going to be a little bit more prone to injuries than the average team. I don't know, but I think in any case, you want to have the maximal amount of depth available. And it looks like Houston, again, knock on all the wood, should be heading into next season with, enviable depth.
Yeah, that they're not going to go 13, 14 deep. Ultimately, just teams generally don't go that deep rotation, but you could talk yourself into 10 or 11 very easily. And wanted to zoom in on one of the guys we've talked about just here a little bit, LJ Cryer. And I remember when he came in last summer, Cryer talked about how he picked U of H, I'm paraphrasing slightly, because he believed there were aspects of his game that could be better and that he thought playing for Kelvin Sampson could help there. And I think if there were any concerns about Cryer's defensive chops or ability to play a lot of minutes for a coach that demands as much on that end of the court as Sampson and to the high defensive standard of this program under this coach, I feel like the 30-something games played this season proved that out. I mean, and Jamal Shed, of course, was your defensive tone setter, but I mean, Naismith Defensive Player of the Year, but this team wouldn't have been an elite defensive team were it not for still getting high level contributions from LJ Cryer, from Emmanuel Sharp, from any combination of the 5 guys that are on the court at any given time for this team. And I also thought in the closing month of the season that we saw Cryer become a more efficient scorer. Really, from the Texas game at the Fertitta Center to the end of the season, we saw a truly elite shooter like the level maybe he showed at Baylor. Not that he was bad before that, but he had some games where just the shot wasn't there. He clearly was struggling. I think early on in conference play, maybe the worst. It just seemed like he was trying to figure out his place offensively on this team. And he finished the season so strong. I mean, the numbers bear out that his 3-point percentage dropped, but it was a pretty minor drop, about a couple percentage points from his last year at Baylor, and while taking 100 more threes this year for the Cougs. I mean, we're talking about a guy, not to borrow the Michael Jordan quote here, but offensively, the ceiling is the roof here. The ceiling is Big 12 player of the year. Not guaranteeing it because this is a very good league, but with the way guys in this program have developed and what he has already shown at this level, I think you'd be negligent if you covered this conference's basketball to not have Cryer in your offseason, preseason, whatever you want to call it, conversation for player of the year. Ultimately, I think he's that good, and I think he is going to get a chance now. Not that he's going to take over the exact role as Jamal Shead, because he's a different kind of player. He's a better pure shooter than Jamal Shead, probably a worse defender, just different dudes. But I feel like this can become more his team, and that's an exciting thought for a guy as talented as him about to be in his 5th season. Like that's what I mean. There are questions to answer. There's no biggie. The first team All-American, Naismith Defensive Player of the Year, face of the program the past few seasons, has not officially announced it, but I think we're all adults here. I think we all agree. Like this would bite your hand off for another season of Jamal Shead at the college level. Jamal Shead has nothing left to prove at the college level. Like
nope.
Time to go play pro basketball. Not that, again, if somehow U of H were to make it happen, but it sure seems like all indications are U of H is expecting to have a different point guard. We're already hearing about, like, oh, this guy's coming in for an official visit. That guy's coming in. So it's going to be a different team in that sense, but I think the returning pieces are more than enough to be just over the moon about. And we've barely talked about the, no biggie, 2 top 100 4-star incoming freshmen you have. Like, not that this program hasn't recruited well during some years that ultimately end up being leaner years. See Houston Cougar basketball from 2010 to 2014. But to bring those 2 guys in, 2 very good high school players, and to have them be kind of an afterthought, and not, I think, unjustly so by the 3 of us, I think just tells you what a stacked team next year's Cougar men's basketball team looks like. It really, 7 months from now needs to get here, guys. As much as I'm excited for the football season and, all the life stuff we have between now and early November cannot get here fast enough.
Nope.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually had a piece in here I was going to mention about kind of my off-season feeling, which is that it is like, early November, but man, it also kind of, some part of me can't feel, but like March can't get here fast enough. Like, honestly, sometimes when I look at the calendar, the first thing I'm thinking of is March. Again, not to like jump past the regular season. To be clear, I'm going to say,
you're not giving the Penny Hardaway quote where he's I'm
not doing the Penny Hardaway thing. Our season starts on Selection Sunday, whatever. I'm not gonna say anything like that. To be clear, I have season tickets. I'm gonna go to pretty much every home game that I can, as many road games as I can. I'm gonna be thrilled if Houston wins another, Big 12 title like they did this year. I think that'd be awesome. But I think we're also at a point where I think we can be honest, where it's like this team has done everything but the thing, right? We've had a Final Four recently. We've got 6 Final Fours in program history. We came into the best conference in the country, won it in our first season by a 2-game margin. This team has nothing to do that they haven't already done but that thing. And again, not to say I didn't enjoy the hell out of the regular season this year. I did. Not to say that I don't think this season was a runaway smash success for the Cougar men's basketball program. It absolutely was, even if we would have all loved the tournament thing to go a little further. But I think and I'm not like saying anything that I don't think that is coming from like the administration, the staff, the players. You heard them. You heard the players talking about it. They knew that was the goal, that the goal wasn't just to make it to the NCAA tournament. It wasn't just to make a Final Four. So I think it is kind of an honest reality that every season going forward, again, not to say that, like I said, I'll be thrilled if Houston wins another Big 12 title, but you offer me a Big 12 regular season title, no promises about the health of the team or Houston finishes 2nd through 4th in the Big 12 and is healthy on Selection Sunday. And for the next 3 weeks, I'm smashing the button on the second one immediately.
Yeah. Not even a conversation.
Yeah. So, I mean, I will be absolutely on cloud 9, whenever the season opener is early November. Don't get me wrong. But I think if we're being honest, a little bit, we are all kind of waiting for the next run at March, the next shot that the team has, because it does kind of feel, and people outside of the Houston program have said this, it feels like a matter of when, not if, Houston finally breaks through and gets to get one of those rings. And when you get Kelvin Sampson with 4 starters coming back off of one of the best teams in the country, it's difficult not to look forward all the way past November and all the way to next Selection Sunday.
Yeah, it's to your point, Dustin. There's one thing left, and every year I'm waiting for that. That's what I need, and I have an agreement with you guys that when it does happen, we will be at least with Dustin. I don't remember if Sam joined in on that, but it will be a really good time. We will say we will have a really good time with it.
Bobby's getting a little net hanging off the rim tattooed on his forehead.
Yeah,
guys,
I already ran it by the bosses and everything at my regular job, and they're okay with it. Surprisingly, it was.
They understand. They understand. I mean, kind of what you guys
can
are
donate to our
about.
Patreon. We don't have to have regular bosses, and then I'll get you each tattooed on my forehead. I don't care.
If you have several thousands of dollars burning a hole in your pocket, patreon.com/SJPod. No, I think something I was kind of thinking about, kind of what you guys were talking about with the tournament, with the one thing this team has left to do. Yeah, I've kind of noticed my tournament viewing habits. Like, it doesn't change for the first couple rounds, because the first couple rounds are like, that is just, for me, it's sports nirvana. Just the upsets, the wall to wall, like 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. There's at least one basketball game on. Like, that stuff is awesome. But I've noticed as U of H has exited later on in some of these tournaments in the last 5 or 6 years, this has become more of a contending program. Not that I can't watch any of it. I watched the closing, I think most of the second half with some friends here of NC State Duke, but between that and maybe like 5 minutes of Alabama UConn, like I hardly watched any of the last bit of the tournament. And that's so different from my, if you go to me in like 2016, 2017, I wasn't like watching every minute of every game, but I don't know, man. The tournament was so removed from what U of H basketball was. It was almost like a different entity. Like, oh, well, I'm watching NCAA basketball. Like, my Cougar fan has very little to do with this. So I was going to say, like, and I think also while we're here on this topic, not that we're never going to mention him again, but got to just underscore what an incredible player Jamal Shead has been for this program, and how much we're going to, as much as we all think it's probably time for him to move on and see what his professional career, holds. What an incredible player. And we talk about time and time again here how spoiled we are as Cougar fans with the last 8 to 9 seasons of point guard play, to start with Kalen Robinson Jr. early on under Sampson, the godfather, the first local kid to really want to be a part of building U of H men's basketball back into something great. At the time, the winningest player in program history, to go from him to Dejan Jerome, unbelievably electric player, scorer, creator, defensive tone setter for this program's first Final Four team since Phi Slamma Jamma. And then from Jerome to Jamal Shead, the guy got thrown into the deep end when Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark went out hurt late at the end of 2021, played a big part in that team incredibly, despite missing 2 key players, sweeping the AAC regular season conference titles, finishing the season in the Elite Eight, coming back to lead last year's team to another conference title, and the program's first 1 seed since Phi Slamma Jamma. Of course, returning this year to lead U of H to, its Big 12 title in its first season, winning just about every conference individual award you could win, first team All-American, Naismith Defensive Player of the Year. Nobody in this fan base would or should turn down the chance to watch another year of Jamal Shead, and knowing the competitor he is, I know it'll always bother him. I'm sure that this season ended with him getting hurt in the Sweet 16, but I mean, just looking at it objectively, he's accomplished everything he can realistically accomplish in the college game as an individual, and just a one of one kind of player and one of one kind of dude. Like, I'm going to really miss watching him in Cougar Scarlet and Albino.
Yeah, I know the guys at Go Cougs made the argument a while back earlier this year that Jamal Shead should see his jersey number retired in the rafters at the Fertitta Center, and I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone around the program that wouldn't agree to that statement. And I mean, and given the objective landmarks that are set out there for what qualifies someone to have their number retired by Houston Cougar men's basketball, Jamal Shead hits that comfortably. So I think just the absolute perfect ambassador for this program in terms of his heart, his leadership, the style at which he plays. Couldn't have enjoyed more watching him play the last 4 years. And the only thing that, and again, if he announces sometimes this week, if he jukes everybody and shocks the entire world and announces he's coming back to run it back one more time, my soul will leave my body. I will transcend physical existence. I will be so happy. But as it is, most likely, all there is left to do at this point is hang the man's jersey up in the rafters.
Yep. No, nothing really I can add to that. It's just been an absolute pleasure to watch him play basketball.
So before we leave the topic of Cougar men's basketball for this episode, I wanted to ask you both something as we are all about to say goodbye to the current season. No right or wrong answers to this, and I will answer it myself after y'all, but what was each of y'all's favorite moment to experience from this past season? Bobby, I'll start with you.
All right, so I actually have two. Hold on, let me find it in my notes here real quick. I would say for me, number one is Ryan Elvin getting points in the tournament. Those are definitely that's just going to be a story that he tells for the rest of his life, right? Every March, he's going to tell the story of how he got points in the NCAA tournament. He's going to be like, I remember when I played in the tournament, and his grandkids are going to be like, we know, Grandpa, we know you played, you made a 3, and they'll tell the whole story. So that's really exciting to see. That was a big moment for me. And then this one's going to make you guys kind of go, what? Why? And it is the TCU game in Fort Worth. Again, I know we lost, but did it suck to lose? Yes. Was it an awesome time that I had, though? Another yes. The whole experience was just awesome. It was my first real Big 12 experience. Even in football, we went to the Baylor game, but Baylor wasn't very good. Their fans didn't really care. To be honest, our fans were kind of like, whatever. It'd be nice to win. We kind of want to beat them just to exercise some demons, but it didn't feel like a Big 12 atmosphere until I went to that game in Fort Worth. I had some fun talking a little bit of shit to people, right? Some friendly smack talk with the TCU fans around me. But everyone was respectful throughout. TCU does this whole thing where they stand up for the start of the game and then they don't sit down until the other team scores. And they score the 3, they win the tip, they go down, they hit their first bucket. We go down, we make our bucket. And I just yell, all right, it's time for everybody to sit down. Let's watch a basketball game. So we just have fun, right? It was a lot of fun. They're talking smack throughout the game. I'm talking a little bit. Super good time. And then the moment where we have the turnover that ends the game, right? I know we don't want to relive it, but that moment happens. And I'm just getting mobbed by these TCU fans. They're hugging me, patting my head. My hat falls off. It was just one of those really fun moments being a fan. Even though your team loses, would it have been more fun for us to go down, hit a 3, win the game? Absolutely. Would I have lost my mind and it would probably be a better memory? Absolutely. To be the only one in the section standing up, cheering as the TCU fans leave sad. Yeah, it would have been more fun for that to happen. But that was the moment that really made me feel like we were in the Big 12. Football, we got stomped by a lot of teams. It wasn't fun. Well, that was the time where I was like, oh, this is what it's like being in the Big 12. I walked out, and as I was walking out, I was just saying to myself, I love this conference. I'm so happy we're here. This isn't an atmosphere I got at SMU, right? We never got that at SMU. Were the SMU fans a little crazy? Yes. It was fun, but there was some dislike there, right? That one was just, the TCU game was just pure fun, having a good time with some opposing fans. And it just reminds me why college sports is 100 times better than professional sports. Every week, I get on Twitter, living here in Dallas, you see fights at Cowboy games. You see that kind of stuff. You see that at some of the bigger, Alabama games, Tennessee games. You'll get the occasional fight. But just like that moment where we're all sitting there talking shit, having a good time, relaxing. Our team wins, our team loses. We're still having fun. That was a really cool moment. And that kind of welcome to the Big 12 moment.
I'm looking forward to Dustin talking about how it took us 40 minutes to get out of our parking spot at Fog Allen, and that's his favorite. No, tell yours, bud. Sorry.
I was going to say, Bobby, I'm guessing you probably had 100% fewer hot dog wrappers thrown at you at TCU than you got historically watching games at SMU.
Yes.
So
it was close, though. I think some people wanted to.
They were thinking about it. I have to admit, I misunderstood because I think the text message that Sam sent about our run sheet today just said favorite moments from the season. I'm like, great, I've got like 8 of those, so I didn't realize pick one.
I did too.
That's the challenge. I was gonna say, like, because you could do a top 10, you could do a top 20 of like really awesome moments as a Cougar fan from this season. Like, I was just doing my notes and I was like, God, like, it's hard to like think of. It spent me like say 10-15 minutes just to think of the one. Sorry.
I was gonna say I kind of assumed that you were gonna pick a game that we saw together about a little bit over a month ago. So I feel like that one has to get mentioned at some point. But I mean, for me, again, I have a hard time narrowing it down. But at least I'm gonna throw it in as at least like one combo moment here, and that is just the 2 games against the Longhorns. Because getting to go to see them in Austin, because there's just nothing more fun. I mean, it's debatable which is more fun, I guess. Being a fan of a team that is winning at home in a crazy atmosphere and being a fan of a team that is winning on the road in a crazy atmosphere, they are both very, very freaking fun in their own ways. And I got to experience both of those this year against the Longhorns, and they were both just absolutely perfect in their own way. Winning at their building, surrounded by Burnt Orange fans who I was not having those kinds of interactions with because we were just ignoring each other. Other than the one A&M fan who was next to me, who's like, I live in Austin, all my friends are UT fans, just like I come to the games. And I was like, yeah, man, Wade Taylor really torched us for one half. He's like, yeah, unfortunately, we only have to play well for one half. So, which kind of, I guess they played 2 pretty good halves against us in March ultimately, but he was, kind of fun to talk to. Other than that, just kind of ignoring the Longhorn fans, but just the giddiness of that game, the like, oh yeah, we're always going to be 1-0 in their building all time. Just like was so fun. And then just the absolute blowout at home, the absolute just party atmosphere that game was inside the Fertitta Center. I mean, the crowd of the Fertitta Center constantly surprised me throughout the year in terms of just like, I thought that I'd been to some awesome games. The first ever game against Oregon was something that the LSU game that I believe was the first year that it was open, that really wild win over LSU was just unbelievable. But yeah, it kept finding new levels this year. And one of those new levels that it found was that Longhorn game and just the absolute pandemonium of just like, this is the one time where we're going to get to play them in their building and just absolutely blowing their doors off and spending the entire second half, just like having one big party with about 7,000-8,000 of my closest friends was truly something. And one of, or I guess 2 of, since I mentioned both games, 2 of the many, many games from this year that are going to be up here for a very, very long time.
You said the one I'm going to pick, but I actually spent a long time being like, I enjoyed that a lot. Did I enjoy that more than just cackling as we just hammered the Longhorns in the return game at the Fertitta Center? Like, it's close. I had a great fucking time with you at the Kansas regular season finale, but like, just the way we controlled that game start to finish against the Longhorns, like, and knowing that that'll probably be the last head-to-head we have against them for a good long time. Certainly the last time that we see them as conference opponents, I'm sure, for many, many years, if ever again. Like, that was really cool. Yeah, I mean, I'll be sure on mine. I can't go with anything other than the Kansas regular season finale at the Fertitta Center. Great experience. If you're a Cougar fan, no matter where you watched it from, it was a great experience, but seeing it in person was incredible. Almost like a 40-minute basketball celebration of being a Cougar, beating the brakes off Kansas from tip-off, the arena going nuts when it became official that we were going to, no matter what happened, that we were going to be the sole Big 12 champions. The Jim Nance being honored at halftime and giving a really wonderful, like, heartfelt, touching speech. Watching watching the guys and the coaches cut down the nets after the game, and just getting to experience a U of H sporting event with one of my best friends on this planet. I mean, not something I get to do as often as I would like these days. So that was really cool. Like that was my top moment there.
Oh.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Feel
feel some kind of way about it, Bobby. Choose to feel some kind of way about it.
I was gonna say Ryan Elvin scoring 7 points down the stretch in that game, and the crowd going absolutely apeshit was one of the big takeaways from that.
As loud as I've ever heard the Fertitta Center. And I've been less often than you does, but that was
when Elvin hit that corner three, Jamal Shedd's final assist in the Fertitta Center. Oh man, it's a minor miracle that the roof did not physically come off of that building.
Exactly. You guys want to talk some football?
Let's talk some spring football.
Let's go. All right. So as we said, we are moving on to football. So we are going to move from our steady workhorse program to our program that has some changes, and hopefully they are for the better. It is Cougar football is wrapping up spring practice, and with a legit spring game on Saturday, guys. We have a legit Cougar football spring game. If you want to know if this program is behaving a little differently than it has, having a televised spring game featuring a Cougar legend in Case Keenum doing color from the booth is a big sign of a change that is happening with this program. I like most Cougar fans was hoping to see the quarterback battle this spring between Donovan Smith and our new transfer. But Donovan Smith needed some surgery, so he has been running through drills, kind of doing the walkthrough and handing the ball off a little bit. So we didn't get to see quite the quarterback battle that we were hoping. But let's be honest with each other. Spring ball, you can't really take too much from it. You don't want to get too excited from something you see in spring. You also don't want to get too disappointed with stuff that you see in spring. But with the new coach, you kind of just want to see the vibes turn around, especially when they were so bad before. And so far, everything I'm seeing from videos is that the vibes are looking pretty good, guys. As the director of vibes, it's just really interesting that Fritz is involved all over the place, right? Every video you see, he's running around. One of the big concerns was his age going into this, was like, hey, he's kind of older. How long are you going to have him? Things like that. He looks younger than our previous coach on that field. So he's in there. He's got the loudspeaker on him. He's got the mic for it. He's yelling all over the place. But he's done things like making third down the money down. Look, is that something that a lot of us as we get older think is kind of lame, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, whatever kind of deal? And you see the money guns and that kind of stuff on the sideline, you're kind of like, that's kind of cheesy, corny. I'll tell you what, 18 to 22-year-olds love it. And so just seeing changes like that, there's just so many things that I've seen in videos from people at spring practice, from Ryan from Duarte, just things just look different. They feel a little bit different down there. Heck, he hosted a coaches clinic. I don't know if you guys saw that. Hosted a coaches clinic, brought the coaches out to practice. They had some players with them. I don't remember ever seeing the last administration do that. The last regime, I don't recall them having coaches clinics during spring practice and engaging the coaches in the state and getting them that excited. So that's kind of what I saw in some of my spring stuff. What did you guys kind of take away from it?
I just really love the way the new staff it's such a minor thing. Like, is the spring game going to tell us really like a ton of meaningful stuff about what the team's going to look like on August 31st when they get out there against UNLV? Probably not. But like, none of us were expecting that. None of us were like, I need to see a spring game so I can, get my two deep that I have, my whiteboard at home. All right. No, it's just about going out and seeing Cougar football. Like, it's just about going out and watching the team and maybe getting to learn some of the new numbers, the new faces, the guys,
celebrating the team,
treating the game like just an opportunity to re-engage your fans. And it didn't feel like that the last staff really was bought in on that or wanted to do that or thought it was anything like a value add, which is kind of crazy to me. I feel like it's a very low hanging fruit kind of thing to do. And I really like that the staff, U of H, I guess, more broadly, is just embracing this as an opportunity to get Cougar fans out there and get them excited about the coming football season. Like, God knows we need reasons to. Like, Bobby and I were just on a show, and the guy showed our 2024 schedule, and it was just like, oh yeah, I forgot. There's like 9 teams that were 2023 bowl teams on there, and there's like all 3 of them that didn't make one. Like, you could make case that they could end up being bowl eligible this coming season. It's going to be a brutally hard season. First years under any head coach when the previous regime wasn't let go for winning too much are usually pretty hard. And I think it's smart that all parties concerned really want to get fans out there, really want to get people engaged, and also like the media as well. Like, the fact that we have this many videos, this much content coming from spring practice, not something you saw previously. Not that Willie Fritz's staff is the first staff to be open with the media since coming here. I thought much as I find him personally off-putting in a lot of ways, I thought Tom Herman was very good at making it somewhat more of an open door than maybe his predecessors did, because you're U of H. You're not in a position to, really be super guarded about letting people cover your team, letting people write about or create media about your team. You need as many people talking about U of H as possible. You are not in a position that a lot of these other maybe more Tiffany programs are. And it's nice to see the staff recognize that before we even get to the X's and O's. It's just nice to see a staff that recognizes they need to re-engage this fan base again. And that's been pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think there's just, we talk about the vibe shift, and it is real easy because it seems like about 2/3 of the team in the country have a really positive vibe shift every offseason, and just everyone's so much more on the same page and pulling in the same direction. It's one of those just cliches of the college football offseason at this point. But it is. I mean, it is something as simple as, last year we commented on how we saw Dana finally kind of like realizing like, oh, it's actually important to my job if people show up to the games. So I should actually try to not have an antagonistic relationship to the fan base. And he started doing the occasional social media video. He reached out to come on our podcast, just kind of was trying to engage a little bit more than he had up until that point. Just compare that to what the current staff is doing, and it feels so much more genuine and natural coming from a staff that just does that because it's what you're supposed to do to keep people engaged, versus this kind of an act of desperation after having multiple seasons of just showing your fan base that that's not the kind of coach that you are, that's not the kind of staff that you are. So it's good in that. And I mean, really up before spring ball already. I mean, I even had a kind of a point in my notes about there's nothing that the staff can do this spring to impress me. Not because I'm like, they suck and I don't care, because I'm literally 100% in. Like, I'm as in as I can be without seeing us win a regular season football game, right? That is all there is at this point for me to get fired up about believing that, again, I thought it was probably going to be heading into the season with Dana Holgerson as my head football coach, someone who I firmly believed wasn't the right man for the job. Not only is that not happening, but U of H went out and hired the absolute guy I would have told them to make their number one priority if they had asked me. You can't ask for much more than that. And since Willie Fritz has gotten here, he's given you everything you could possibly hope for in terms of winning the press conference, winning over the fans, whatever you want to call it. But, my last thought was just kind of to tie it back to what I said at the very, very beginning of this episode when you give me the, like, how's it going? It's fun to be excited about Cougar football in the offseason. It's fun to not be heading into the season. It's fun to be heading into the season thinking about this is year one of laying the foundation for something that I feel very strongly is going to end up being very, very fun and very, very exciting, versus heading into the offseason having just constantly being asked by people in DMs on Twitter, like, how many games does your coach have to win to not get fired this year? And like trying to think about things that way. So again, the schedule being what it is, I think this coaching staff could do a really good job and Houston could go 5-7 again or something like that. But just knowing that you're watching a staff that's kind of doing things the right way, assembling a roster the right way, building a program the right way, just having that off season and that spring it's exciting, and it's exciting to actually be looking forward to Cougar football wholeheartedly again.
Yeah, and I would just add also, I'm still curious. Like, again, I don't think it'll be really significant. I'm not going to allow the game when I wake up Saturday morning to color too many of my big picture thoughts about what the coming season's team could be. But I'm excited. I mean, I'm curious to see who's playing on offensive line, because basically one returning close to a full-time starter in Tank Jenkins, and one very part-time backup starting type in Demetrius Hunter, and that's about it. Like, it's a it's a big question mark all around that position group. By no fault of this staff. Is a pretty old position group. When when this new staff came in, you had a couple guys in Freeman and Paul move on, probably to some degree of the professional ranks. You had a couple guys transfer, Tyler Johnson and Ruben Unije, who somehow, some way ended up on a power conference team's roster for the coming season. But bully on him, in spite of what I saw. Excited to see, who your receiver group. Obviously, you lose a big name in Matthew Golden, but return a couple of guys who I think honestly were your first and second best receivers last year in some order, in Joseph Manjack and Sammy Brown. That today, Tuesday, Sammy Brown had this absurd one-handed catch from spring practice. A guy who flashed unbelievable highs last year. I think higher highs than we expected when we kind of looked at last year's team before the season. So that's exciting. What the running back group looks like as well, that you have a lot of experience there. And yeah, you don't have your presumed number one guy, Donovan Smith, but you get to see Zion Chris for the first time, the guy who I think is the only one who realistically is going to compete with Donovan Smith potentially in fall ball, even though I think Smith probably has the inside track to start. I think it'd be exciting to watch Chris, exciting to watch Uiale, who in flashes last year looked like he had a really live arm, and the last staff I know really thought highly of. So just a few. Oh, and linebacker group too, just moving from a 4-2-5 or whatever last year's defense was to a 3-4. I think that's exciting as well. So yeah, just fun little low stakes football to watch on a Saturday morning, and I think a way to re-engage your fan base. And I think that's so I'm excited for a little bit of spring football.
Yeah, can't wait, guys. It's just like you said, you can look at all the position battles that you want, but hearing Case Keenum on color while I get to watch Cougar football in April is going to be just an incredible feeling.
Case Keenum and one-time guest host and also guest of the pod, Jeremy Branham, on the call of that one on ESPN Plus as well. Exciting
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah, and right at the end there, Sam, you mentioned the position battle that I think I'm most interested in this spring, or broadly speaking, going into the coming season, and that's the linebacker group moving to that 3-4 base under Sheila Wood. The Cougars have, I believe, at this point, only 8 scholarship players for those 4 linebacker positions. And I mean, all 8 of those guys have appeared in at least 12 college games, made at least 8 tackles. 5 of those 8 guys have at least 40 career tackles. So, I think if they're all healthy, it seems fine to me to have that kind of be your 2 deep, but not a ton of potential injury depth there. So, question 1 for me is, who are your starters at linebacker? You've got guys like Kendra Gant coming in from Louisiana Lafayette, Corey Platt Jr. coming in from Tulane. Those do not look like the guys that are going to transfer to come off the bench based on what they've done up until this point. Jamal Morris, and then Louisiana Monroe transfer Michael Batten, both well over 100 tackles in their career. Traylon Payne came into Houston straight out of high school and has played basically every game the last 2 years, and I think showed a lot of promise. So I think that right there is 5 guys with a pretty good argument to start. And then, question 2 is what does your depth look like at that position? Do you like Jalen Garner, Latravian McCutcheon, and Aubrey Smith enough to have them fill out your 2 deep? Do we see maybe a safety coming in and playing kind of like a hybrid safety will linebacker spot? Do we see a transfer coming in once the portal does open back up on Sunday at the end of this week? So, potential for more transfers to come in still at this point. So really interesting position group, I think, for me. Among some of the others that you mentioned, Sam, certainly what this offensive line is going to look like is something that'll, it's keeping me up a little bit at night. So that's definitely a fairly large question mark still. But broadly speaking, excited about the coming season and seeing what hopefully ends up being a successful, healthy season.
All right, Bob, you had a couple of other quick Cougar notes before we hit the road.
Yeah, big one for me before we hit the road is going to be De La Fuente, our golfer. Santiago De La Fuente tees off at the Masters. So it'll be tomorrow by the time you're hearing this. So Thursday, you will see De La Fuente. He tees off around 7 a.m. on Thursday and around 10 a.m. on Friday. So he's got the early track on Thursday. He gets the later tee time on Friday. What that is basically if you play 2 rounds, and if you are above a certain number, that's determined by how many players are above a certain score and you get cut and all that. If he makes it, then he gets to play the weekend. He'll get to play Saturday or Sunday. For me, just kind of watching him this year and some of his other tournaments, making the cut is probably the goal. If he makes the cut, a couple usually make the cut every year. A couple of the amateurs tend to make the cut every year. And De La Fuente is one of the better players in college golf this year. So would be really nice to see him make the cut, would be super exciting. And honestly, it would be one of the best U of H stories of the 23-24 season. I would be beyond excited about that.
I was gonna say, like, he could have a decorated golf career after this and not end up playing the Masters again. That's really cool. Like, I was gonna ask you, so I know it's like split between ESPN and CBS. Is there a best way to watch the first couple days and maybe catch Santiago playing?
Yep, masters.com. They show every single shot. You can watch every single shot from every single golfer on the masters.com. It is, or on their app. It is far and away the best sports app you will ever find. One of the best things about the Masters is they do limited commercials. So they do one commercial every like half hour. And so in their sponsors, they have like 5 main sponsors, and that's the only ads you see. It's like Rolex, IBM, and there's a couple of others, and that's all you see. And you see it once every half hour. And there was some years where they were protested against, and Augusta said, "Don't worry about it. We sponsors, you can drop us this year. We'll just self-fund this tournament this year." They have an agreement with CBS and ESPN that the Masters basically puts it on, and then they tell those companies how much it costs to produce, and those companies pay them that much. Like, nobody makes a ton of money off of it. The Masters, it's the best way to view sports. Sorry to kind of go on a tangent there, but if you want to see the perfect way to present a sports product, the Masters is probably the way to go.
I really messed up not getting the little soft piano sound, like while you're really quick. Also, I wanted to note Henrietta Fangley, current U of H swimmer, just broke the Hungarian national record in the 100 breaststroke, which that's really cool. Like, to be the best in an event or the fastest in an event, like, of anyone from your country ever. It's really cool, and some not surprising because she's been an incredible standout since she joined Cougar swimming and diving. But just wanted to note that as well. Like, really, really cool Cougar achievements on a international scale.
Yeah, let me tell you, if I was the best at anything in any country, you would know. Like, I would wear it. I would have shirts. I would have a hat made. Like, you would know that, like, I was the best at anything in a country.
Dustin, you want to take us home?
Perfect. Let's do it. On our way out, as always, huge thank you to our Patreon supporters for the money that you're continuing to put towards the work that we do on a weekly basis to bring you the latest, greatest Cougar goings on. If you feel like you can afford $5 a month, you feel like we're giving you $5 a month worth of entertainment, we would love for you to go to patreon.com/shpodcast, where you can sign up to be a patron. If you want to reach out and get in contact with us, you can email us shpodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at shpodcast, or you can blue sky at us at podcast.bsky.social. That's it for us. If you made it all the way to the end, you are an absolute rock star. And as always,
go Cougs.